the myth, the
We need our
legend.
boy Craig. Very important. We need to adjust audio later. Craig, come hither. Craig, in the crow's nest. There it is. Our man Craig, summon.
Aw, look at him.
There he is, our buddy.
Now recording.
Now recording. Why'd you change his name to Big Papa?
Big Papa Craig!
Oh, that's great. Okay, alright, I'm going to read the intro now. So, ahoy, welcome to the Crow's Nest. This is season 1, episode 4. And today we have Sunny with us. Yippee! Okay, so today's Crow's Nest is hosted by Toilet, Emily Night Valley, Felix, Felicia Locris, that's me, and special guest, like I said, Sunny, Sheila Sunstar, who is our newest leader with Crystal Pirates. Yippee! Um, so Toilet has been in the SSO community for 11 years, so a hot minute. Has owned clubs for roughly half that time. Toilet currently owns Crystal Pirates, co-owns Royal Regiment Dressage, and is also an instructor with the Dressage Academy. Sunny has been in the dressage community for a long time, not a specified time, but a long time. She has past experience leading, instructing dressage, and owning a club, which eventually led her to Crystal Pirates as our newest leader. And for me, Felix, I'm a leader instructor with Crystal Pirates. I also instruct with TDA, SSD, and JDC, and I'm a huge advocate for volunteering and community engagement. Craig now recording. Yes, Craig is here. All right, beautiful. Okay. First topic is up on the screen here. I will just read it quickly. How do I stop comparing myself to other clubs and teams? And then in the Google form, the person who submitted this also added, it just seems so confusing that newer clubs in 2025 seem to be getting more attention on social media and applications than older clubs. Would anybody like to begin yapping about this topic?
I can begin if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to start by saying that I don't think it's necessarily bad to compare yourself. I think it kind of just depends on how you're going about it. If you see other clubs that you feel are maybe more successful, then there might be something that you can find that you wish you had in your club. So maybe that comparison can lead to inspiration so that you can kind of implement those type of things in your club. I know, especially in the Star Stable community, it can be a little touchy about finding inspiration from other clubs. So if you are, taking anything from somebody else, a lot of times it's fair to send some type of message to them, making sure that it's okay that you are inspired by them, things like that, making sure that you're giving credit.
Right.
I know that kind of gets a little muddy waters there with that one a little bit, but like it's a good way for you to try and I guess inspiration is what I'm going for, seeing different things from other clubs. But of course, if the comparison that you're doing is leading to, negatively affecting your mental health or your club in some way, then definitely you want to try to avoid doing that. So I would say get off of Instagram or whatever it is that you are, seeing these other clubs on that, is leading to you comparing yourself to them, wherever you are seeing them. Unfollow whatever it is that's, negatively affecting your mental health, if that's an option available to you, things like that. So then you can stop yourself from doing that comparison. But also when we look at where they're talking about the other clubs gaining more attention or applications and stuff, I want to stress that it's you never really know what's going on behind the curtain. So maybe it seems like they're getting a lot of attention or applications or whatever it is, but you don't actually know all the details of that situation since you're not in that club.
Right.
So it kind of, if you pull back that curtain, you're not really sure, I guess, what's going on. Yeah. So
yeah, that's a really good point.
What I had for that.
Do you want to add something, Toilet?
Yeah, I actually have a story. I know you said pull behind the curtain. I won't say names, but way back when I actually joined a really popular club. It wasn't dressage, it was just hang out. But I was oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be in this club. It's huge, popular. It's invite only. It's this big thing, all those stereotypes or whatever. And I remember joining, and it was one of the worst clubs ever. That's being very negative, but it was not good behind the scenes. And so I have definitely lived through the you see like cherry-picked things on social media, I feel like, and again, you never know what's going on behind the curtain.
It was all a
So
facade.
I've definitely had a bad experience with that before.
Oh no.
But yeah, I got out of there though. I got out of there. Trust. But yeah, you never know what's going on behind the curtain. If you can find groups that are like not like cherry picking what they're showing you and like just being like true to themselves on social media, but sometimes that is hard to find, especially because you pick what goes on social media.
Mm-hmm. Like I think we've mentioned in a previous Crow's Nest, it's like where can you find community with other club owners, and you can kind of like discuss your struggles and your experiences, and then that can kind of help you not feel like so behind other clubs, because you can kind of like discuss what's happening. I think too what's important too is like Sunny mentioned and Toilet you mentioned as well, is you never know what's going on behind the scenes. So instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to your own growth over time. So how have you improved over the past month, 3 months, 6 months, a year? And sometimes there's periods where nothing happens. That's totally fine. So yeah, instead of comparing yourself to others, look at your own growth. And then also too, like you don't know how much time other club owners have to dedicate to their club. So like if you are really busy and you can only spend like 10 hours a week, but this other person can spend like 20 hours a week, well, that's going to make a difference. So
yeah, it is.
You never know what's going on. Yeah.
I see.
Another thing too that I've noticed is that if a club blows up really quickly, it's usually because the owner is coming from a club that's just disbanded or retired, and they're bringing a lot of members with them, or they are a content creator, and so their audience is already there, and they would love to join a club owned by their favorite content creator. So like sometimes that's the reason why they grew really quickly. Sometimes people just have a really creative and unique theme, or maybe they have like a good reputation in the SSO community. Maybe like they're a well-known instructor or moderator in a big SSO server. So yeah, you may not know that, and then if you're comparing yourself to them, it's like you didn't have the same starting point, if that makes sense. So.
I feel like there could also be this interesting conversation about like long-term commitment versus like short-term commitment. I feel like some clubs pop up and they are here for a short time, but they grow really fast in that time, but then they're gone. Like really active for 3 months and then boom, nothing, gone.
Right.
So it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Felix. Like I know, like not like stereotyping, but like the type of person running it. Like if you know them prior, are they here? Do they usually make things that are short term? Like, do they like to make clubs for 3 months, go away, come back, do it again, and just repeat that cycle? Or are they actually willing to like put in the work long term and kind of like slow and steady wins the race, or whatever the cliche saying is?
Right. So then I think you also like would want to look at like what are your motivations for having a club on SSO? Like, are you chasing those like that follower count on social media, or do you want like 50 members in your club as soon as possible? Maybe that's not the best for your mental health if you're just kind of obsessing over those numbers. So then it's the question of like the cliche of quality instead of quality. Sorry, yes, quality instead of quantity. There we go. Like, what makes your members special to you? How well do you know them? And then does your club environment encourage your members to interact with each other and with yourself and your staff team, and to like form new friendships? Like what is your overall goal for the club?
Yeah, I also think that it's not necessarily bad for you that other clubs are doing good, you know, like to be a little bit envious of them having a lot of members and stuff. Like that's definitely understandable.
Yeah.
But you could also, you know, be happy for them having a successful club, and maybe, you know, reach out and see if they have any advice to help you.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, necessarily negative on you for somebody else to have a club that you think is, you know, maybe more successful than yours. And there's a lot of different ways that you could kind of judge that, because like this is really focused on attention on social media and member count, but that's like you were saying with the quality over quantity. See, I'm going to say it the wrong way. With making sure that your club is like kind of staying with your morals and direction that you want it to, and hitting the goals that you have for your club, rather than focusing on like those outward appearances.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like you mentioned, Sunny, like you can reach out to those people that you admire and ask for their advice. And I would say most of the time they're happy to respond and like talk to you for a bit. Very rarely, I would say someone would be like, "No, go like struggle." Like,
I would be nervous for those clubs to think that they probably are the ones that have something, going on behind the curtain if that was the case.
Yeah. And then maybe too, like this is an opportunity for you to ask, like, "Hey, do you want to do a collab?" Because then you can see like what is like how do they host events, and maybe you get some like ideas from that. And you could say like, "Hey, like I really enjoyed this collab we did together. Would you be okay if I hosted a similar event for my club?" Yeah, it kind of gives you more chances to learn from others in the community.
I'm nodding my head. You can't see it though.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with all that.
Awesome.
I also had in my notes, like, I feel like you touched on this, Sunny, but like exposure therapy, quote unquote. Like, it can be awkward, but low key, like, if you're feeling a certain way, maybe reaching out to them and like starting a conversation with them. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be weird, but that kind of like breaks the barrier in a way. 'Cause you're like, okay, yeah, these are just people, kind of thing.
That's like
in my notes.
It's like for like I feel like some people like kind of like idolize and put bigger clubs on a pedestal, and you kind of form like a parasocial relationship with them.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then reaching out to them and speaking to them kind of humanizes them.
Yes.
So then, yeah, you can kind of like go, oh yeah, at one point they were where I am now. Like, and I think too, speaking to like the behind the curtain thing is like, you don't know how long their journey was to get to where they are now and what they had to struggle with and the obstacles they had to overcome. So, yeah, often people don't advertise that. They don't mention it. So it's just like the highlights, the highlight reel.
Yeah.
So
All the gooky stuff.
yeah. So don't compare yourself.
Yeah.
Also speaking to like toilet, you were saying it's more about like your long-term commitment. So I think too, I've mentioned this before, but when you're first starting out with a club or you're thinking about it, you need to think about the long-term commitment. So like, can you sustain the required investment of time and effort over the first month, the first 3 months, the first 6 months, the first year, and then multiple years after that? And I think that's something that people don't always think about when they're pondering if they want to start a club or not. So yeah, how much time do you have to dedicate each week to like advertising, preparing events and practices, hanging out with your members, like, preparing all the behind the scenes stuff. And if you ask Toilet, her to-do list is a mile long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like having a part-time job.
Yes.
For some people, a full-time job
Felix
even. You have to put so much time into it.
And I think that just also speaks to like how wonderful like fandom communities are. Like, if you are having the desire to start a club, it's because you love the game and the community so much that you want you're essentially volunteering your time to create a space where people can come together and form friendships and have fun together, and it's like a safe space for them to connect. And I think that's really beautiful. But yeah, you need to like also think about your own mental health. Like, you don't want to burn out because that's not fun. So yeah. Who can you connect to kind of like talk to other club owners? Or maybe it's like you're a family member or a friend, and you tell them all about your horsey game stuff, and they can kind of support you that way. Yeah.
I've been that person before. I'll be like, "Hey, guess what happened in my horsey game today?"
My
like,
family
okay.
hears plenty about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, ever since
Yeah.
my brother last Christmas.
Oh yes.
So every time I call him and we like update each other on our lives, he's like, "So how's your horse game going? Did you guys do another like dance performance?" That's what he calls dressage. And I'm like, "Yeah, we're
Oh
working
my
on
gosh.
something right now." And he's like, "Oh, that's awesome." And then I'll like tell him about stuff, and yeah, it's really funny.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then I think Toilet also has spoken in the past like to journal.
I literally am highlighting that in my notes right now.
Okay, go ahead and yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was about to say, you basically stealing the words from my mouth. I always talk about journaling. I love journaling. It's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, journaling, writing down your thoughts. Like Felix, I believe you were the one who mentioned like seeing your past self and seeing how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling can help with that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like on my phone, like on the notes app, doesn't even have to be that like an IRL notebook. Literally on
Yeah.
my notes app, I just have something that's titled notes, and whenever I'm like happy, mad, sad, anything, I just go in there and put down notes and like journal to myself, and then I can go revisit that later and see how far we've come.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could probably go in there and find one right now for the sake of it, but I definitely recommend doing that.
And like you could even do voice notes, like, and then like you like set a reminder for yourself in your calendar, like 6 months later, go listen to this voice note you made 6 months ago, and that's another way that you can kind of go like, wow, look at how much I've like grown over time, like, or I learned all these new things, or I met all these new members, or I had this new staff join, and you know, so it's kind of like you're not kind of stuck in the moment looking at your current highs or lows. You can kind of see over time, like all this stuff has happened. My journey has looked like this. Yeah.
But this is interesting. But IRL, I started college this year, and there was this teacher, and obviously I won't say names or class or whatever, but he had this like envelope, and it on the right, it wrote on the front, and it said like, open this when you're sad or like wanting to quit, and it was just like a bunch of letters from students that had like written like really nice things to him. So that could also be something you do in a journal, just like copy and paste any good notes you have, and then whenever you're feeling like, darn it, I want to give up, you go read it, and you're like, well, now I can't.
Right. Like, or if you have like you're like in the Crystal Pirates closed server, we have like a love letters channel, and or if you just your members write something anywhere, kind of saying, I love this club so much, like I appreciate it, like it's so fun, and you just kind of collect those little notes, and maybe you put them like you have a kind of private Discord server just for yourself, and you can like put all those little screenshots there, copy paste them, and then like Toilet said, when you're feeling a little down, you can go and look at them and give yourself the motivation to keep going. But yeah, sometimes it can be tricky, but if you keep plugging away at it, you'll see the fruits of your labor.
Journal.
Oh, you found it?
My journal. Do you guys want to hear some stuff I wrote in my journal?
Yes.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So I don't put dates on these, so I have no clue when I wrote this, but I'm guessing this was like early CP because I was talking about advertising, and I said, start quote, I feel like we are at our lowest. We are probably going to lose our only members, and advertising on SSO is literally impossible. It's so annoying. I'm so tempted to make an Alicia online club at this point. I can't say Instagram or Discord without anything being flagged. I can't advertise a paragraph in global chat because if one thing's wrong, it all gets flagged, and you don't know what is flagged. Everyone is tired of this game, so no one is playing, and I really feel like giving up. End quote. So I was low there. But if I scroll down 2 more notes, okay, you ready? This one's really fun.
Yeah.
You're gonna laugh at this, Felix. Okay, start quote. Hi, Toilet. I'm writing this now to let you know CP is doing amazing. We have around 7 consistent riders who love and cherish the club. Remember to always stay kind, even when you want to get mad, and never disband. You could always go on break. Also, rank up Felix. End quote.
Hey!
That's so cute. I love the hi, Toilet.
Yeah. So yeah, those are just some examples of like what I've written. And I have notes that people have like wrote to me personally, be like, oh my gosh, I love Crystal Pirates. I have a little section that's just like fun notes that I can go back and read.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, I love it.
And
So
I think too, like whatever form of journaling you decide to do, whether it's writing it down on your phone, your laptop, your in a journal, or like audio notes or voice notes. My brain's not working. It helps you process the emotions as well too. And then instead of like just like what's the word I'm looking for? Like hyper focusing on them, like it occupies too much of your brain space. You can kind of just like let it go, put it out on a medium of your choice, and focus on something new.
Yeah.
Journaling is great. There's also like some like apps that are like therapy apps that kind of work like a journal. So if you kind of like having something respond to you, like there's one called Robot. I don't know how well it would work for you to talk to it about your SSO club stuff, but you could probably say, I'm running like a club, and these are the struggles I've had, and then it can probably like give you like some helpful feedback.
I have Finch. It's like a journaling, like a little bird, and it encourages you to write notes about how you're feeling like throughout the day and things like that. And it also tags like keywords, so you can go back. Like if you click on like I could do like hashtag Crystal Pirates and give it a color and everything, so it goes purple and like all of that, and then click on Crystal Pirates and it would take me to everything that I've ever said about Crystal Pirates. And it tells you the date and everything, and you'll also get like little points when you write about how you're feeling, and you can use those to buy little outfits for your little Finch. So I really like that one.
That's adorable.
That's so cute. Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna make a note and I'll include it in the description of the YouTube video.
Yeah, that's so... we should start it all and get little birdies and dress them up and all.
Yes, and you can be friends.
What?
I have my sister and my girlfriend on there, and so you can like talk about your friends. You could say like, "Oh, I felt great today because I hung out with my sister," and then I'll tag them, and like you can send them like appreciation stuff, you know?
That's so cute.
It has like a little family tree with you and all your friends that you added, so you can see like all your little birds sitting in a tree together.
Oh, that's very cute.
It's like mainly a journaling app, but just like gamified.
Cute.
That's so good. That's so amazing. That's
adorable.
Oh, yeah, I'm geeking right now. I love that. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah, it's called Finch.
Oh.
I made a note.
Yeah, that's awesome.
RQ has a question or a comment. I think my big issue is I promo at random times and I don't know when people check the messages. Do we briefly want to talk about that quickly?
Ooh. I have thunkies on that. This is something that I actually figured out a little while whenever I was advertising Crystal Pirates, like not a few months ago, way back when, but advertising at the times your practices are, especially if it's game, because then people are most likely to be online for your practice times.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I sat down and thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh, big brain moment. And then Discord, it's a little interesting because some servers have the like on the self promo channels. You know how they have those like the time things like the cooldown. Sometimes it's like 8 hours. Sometimes it's like 2. So that could be a little interesting. But I have all mine. I don't know, Felix. I know
I think the max is 6 hours for cooldowns.
Okay, I'll say it's either 6 or 8. Sunny, I don't know if you advertise as well, but I have all mine in one big server, and I'll just go down, and then whatever the max is, I just set an alarm on my phone, and then I just go back and just repeat that over and over and over again whenever I'm doing an advertising spree.
I haven't advertised for Crystal Pirates yet. I know that's terrible, but in my last club, me and the owner, like some of the other leaders, we would go back and forth taking turns. I don't know if that feels like cheating a little bit, but it would be like 6 hours. So one of us would send it in the morning, and then the next person would send it a couple hours later, and then the next person a couple hours later. So then we just kind of ignored the
cooldown.
Yeah,
the cooldown. So that is a little cheaty, but that's what we did. I guess you'd have to read the rules for that specific server, because some people have it to where only the like owner of the club is allowed to send advertisements. So that would really depend on what the like rules per server.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good, like Toilet said, to try advertising around the time where you usually host practices or events, because like Toilet mentioned, that's when most people would normally be online anyways. And then if you can advertise 6 hours earlier or 6 hours later, depending on how early or late that is in your time zone, to maximize the amount of self-promo you can do. The other thing too is kind of scroll through self-promo and see what other people include in their messages and what catches your eye. And you can try different variants. So you could be like, On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I use this variation of my self promo message, and then on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I use this other variation. And you could do 2 different invite links for those 2 self promos, and you can track and see which one is more popular. You can do some A/B testing. But the self promo game can be a bit daunting sometimes. But it's a grind. You just gotta do it. Another thing you can do as well is like I have the Crystal Pirates server invite link in my profile. So if I'm chatting in a server and people click on my name to like learn more about me, it's right there. The server invite link. So hopefully they click on it there.
A walking advertisement.
Yeah. So anywhere you can put that link in your Instagram profile, if you have like a card or a link tree. If you have TikTok, throw it in there. Anywhere you can put it. But yeah, unfortunately, it just takes time.
Yeah.
Just gotta be on that grind. All right. Do we have anything else to say in regards to RQ's comment?
I'm Gucci guacamole.
All right. What about you, Sunny?
I'm all good.
Okay. Do we have anything else to discuss about the first topic, or do we want to mosey on down to the second?
I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, I'm ready to mosey.
All right. You want to change the slide?
Oh, here we go.
Wow.
Yay!
All right. Next topic is how would you go about? Wow, the justify spacing on this. Wow. Okay. Sorry. The big gap between 4 and leaders and your. Okay. Sorry. How would you go about finding a co-owner and/or leaders? Big space 4. Big space your club/team. What should you look for in a co-owner or leader? Fire away. Or do you guys want me to start?
I mostly have experience as like being the person looking for the club, like mostly recently.
Yeah.
So it's not really so much as looking for, the club leader, but like being a person who is interested in being a club leader, looking for a club to join.
That's an interesting perspective. Do you want to talk about that a bit? Like what attracts you to want to be a leader for a club?
Yeah. So for Crystal Pirates specifically, I had been attending a lot of open lessons and stuff, and I couldn't even tell you what server it was in because you guys do so many different open lessons, different places. So like putting yourself out there like that, and then I can, join in my free time, and it's around the time when practice usually is. So then I can kind of get a taste for what it would be like to be part of Crystal Pirates before I really commit, especially since I'm a person who commits so very fully. I hate to commit and not be able to, go that extra mile.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure before I join that it's a club that I would like to be a part of. So like that was a really big thing for me to be able to like meet you guys, talk to you, have multiple different experiences, see how like a practice kind of runs for you guys and stuff like that before I actually was like committed to it, even though when you're just first joining, it's not quite the commitment when you're like, okay, I'm this far in, do I want to go down that road of making sure that all these different things are going right with the club and like actually taking on staff roles. Like I was thinking about it even before I made like the staff commitment, like when I was making the commitment just to join the club in general. So the big thing for me was being able to attend practices multiple times before I actually submitted my application. So that was really interesting, and then I could definitely see like, these people seem nice. I feel like I could be friends with them, stuff like that, So that was kind of the biggest thing.
So like opportunities of like either open practices if you do a discipline like dressage, liberty, drill, RRP, trying to think of all the possible options, or like open events.
Yeah.
Right, so they can get a feel.
I had attended like 3 practices for dressage and 1 like event. So I had like quite a bit of experience, and that was just in like the weeks leading up to when I actually applied. I had been to open lessons for Crystal Pirates like months, maybe even years in advance before I actually applied. So it was something that was like it wasn't a new concept, I hadn't just heard of Crystal Pirates when I went to apply. So it was definitely something that you guys had been working on and kind of like building that like almost like branding, like building the community and for other people to know about you before I actually like when I wasn't even looking for a club, was when I first started attending open lessons with you guys. And then later on, when I was looking for a club, I was like, well, these are people I've, been around a little bit. I'm going to see, where they're at, what they're doing, things like that,
Right.
go to some more open lessons, and get myself more familiarized with them. And then, oh, look, applications are open next week, So it was a little bit right place, right time, but a lot of, I had experience with Crystal Pirates, at least a little bit, a long time in advance before I was even looking for a club.
The seed was planted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We drew you in. That's great.
Yeah, I'll say for me too, the club I was in before Crystal Pirates disbanded, and I had already been to a few open lessons that Toilet hosted, and I really enjoyed Toilet's teaching, and I was in the Crystal Pirates open server, and I noticed that they were looking for instructors, and I was like, I like instructing, let me hit up that Google form. So kind of like the same thing for me is yeah, I met Toilet through, I think it was TDA open lessons, and really enjoyed Toilet's instructing style, and I was like, Toilet knows so much about dressage, I could learn a lot from Toilet, and yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, for me, when looking for new staff just in general, I feel like we have talked about this in past Crow's Nest, but obviously having standards or requirements set in place, for Crystal Pirates, obviously things we look for is are they participating in the club, meaning are they meeting the activity requirement? Because if they're not doing that, then they're probably not catching on to how we do things.
Right.
I think the club uniform is also important, because that's also some of the requirements we have for our ranks. And then if you're interested in instructing, obviously have an interest in leading a group of people or maybe past experience.
Right.
And I feel like we could have a discussion on capabilities. There's some people who you can look at them and you're like, yeah, I know that you'll be great in this role. And there's other people that maybe don't know how to show it yet, but they're willing if you teach them how to do stuff. So kind of being able to kind of spy out who you think would be able to take on responsibility.
Right, they have hidden potential.
People who are willing and also have the time to dedicate to it.
Time is definitely a big thing, because like we said, it's kind of like a unpaid job. It takes a lot of time, but it's worth it.
I think we had this discussion in TOC, but it's interesting when you're trying to figure out how do you allocate responsibilities amongst your staff team. So from my perspective, what I've seen is generally you don't want more than 2 or 3 leaders, even if your club gets quite large, because the leaders have almost the same powers as the owner or co-owners, and they generally see almost everything that the owner or co-owners see. So if you have too many leaders, then it kind of muddles the chain of command a bit. So then if you do have other tasks that could be assigned to a staff member, you can have junior staff positions. And I think that's something that Crystal Pirates does really well. So it's smaller jobs that don't require as much responsibility or as much kind of I feel like leaders are more go-getters. They will figure out a way to do things without too much oversight from the owner. Whereas if you have a smaller task, say for example, we have some staff members in Crystal Pirates and they do a really great job. They'll prepare the weekly agenda and they'll remind people to fill it out, and schedule stuff they want to host. There's people who create content for Instagram and TikTok, and we don't have to be on their butts about that. They will do it. But the tasks that they have are more specifically delineated, and the scope is smaller. So if you have some people who are keen to help out, but maybe they don't have as much time as you would want for a potential leader or co-owner, those are smaller jobs you can give to them. And then that also takes stuff off the plate of yourself as the owner and your leaders. And then you can then focus on the more kind of higher level tasks that really need the attention of your senior staff members, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Another big thing is probably all of what you were saying with the set standards, but you want to be careful about choosing friends.
Right.
I have co-owned with friends before, been a leader for clubs that friends owned and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it could just get like a lot of
Messy.
like conflict of interest
Yeah.
almost, like that kind of thing. Of course, it's always going to help if the leadership team is really like friendly with each other, like know each other well, things like that, so you can be that well-oiled machine. It's just a little bit different if you're choosing someone to be your co-owner or leader just because they are your friend. Like, you want to make sure that you're not doing that. You want to choose somebody who is the best person for the job.
Yeah.
When it's your friend, you know, they might feel like, you know, I should automatically be promoted since I'm clearly your best friend, you know, whatever else. So that can get really, like, I don't know, difficult to navigate. But in the long run, if you just decide to rank up your friend over other people who are maybe a better fit for the job, other members will notice that. They will likely lose respect for you because of the decision that you made. It's just going to cause a lot of conflict in the long run.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And like, if your friend is a good fit, I think what's important, it's like the same as like if you work with a friend and you're like, let's start our own business together. Let's, you want to clearly delineate your relationship as friends and your relationship as business partners, or in the case of this, co-owners, or they're a leader in your club. So be very clear that like, I'm going to expect you to uphold the same standards and to undertake your responsibilities in the same way as any other staff member. And if you are not able to, for whatever reason, then you would go on break, or you may have less responsibilities assigned to you. Your rank may change as a result. And I think it's very important that you're clear about this from the start, so that you're not having to make this decision like at a really bad juncture where maybe they're like, they've ghosted you for like months and you're like, hey, where you at? And then you have to make the decision of ranking them down because, like Sunny mentioned, it doesn't look good from your members' point of view if your friend is still like a leader or co-owner, but they're never around and they're never doing anything. So it's like, what does their title mean? Like, are they just like, they get that special title because they're your friend, and then your friend comes back and they're like, hey, like, why aren't I like a co-owner or leader anymore? Like, I'm really upset. So as long as you can set those expectations clearly from the beginning, have this understanding. And of course, you want to be, empathetic. Like, anytime that you discuss changes with a friend who's a staff member, or just like anybody else who's a staff member, but you need to kind of be firm about your expectations, and also understanding like, hey, like if life is really crazy for you right now, or your mental health is maybe not so Gucci, that's fine. Take a break. We're gonna change your rank right now, but when you come back, we can discuss if maybe like you could come back and slowly take on responsibilities again. But yeah, it's not only like your relationship with that person between the two of you and as members of the staff team, but also, like Sunny mentioned, how your members perceive this person and how that affects your reputation as a staff team and the club as a whole. This can get a little complicated.
Yeah, so with those difficult conversations in mind, not saying that you'll have to have those with your friends,
Right.
but since you know that's a possibility, you also want to make sure that this is a friend who you would be able to have those type of conversations with. You know, like if you know that it's a possibility, even if it's, you don't foresee it happening, you want to make sure that if you are ranking up a friend, it's someone who you could have those conversations with, and it not lead to the end of the friendship.
Right, because, that would not be good.
Yeah, some people are not, like, they're just not going to be able to have those conversations, whether it's emotional maturity or whatever the situation is. So you just have to kind of be aware.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I will say, I've had like real world application. I've been I've owned with a friend before, and it's definitely been interesting in DMs because I'd have to literally start messages and be like, okay, this is from a club owner perspective, not friend perspective. And then it'd be like, okay, I'm here as a friend right now. So if you can, like, that's a way to balance it. Or I would create like group messages, like with my extra account, and then it'd be like, okay, DMs, and then it'd be like club stuff. So it's been interesting. You can make it work. It can be a little hard though. I will say, like, RRD, the team I co-own, two co-owners, me and Hatton, we set boundaries going into it, and we were like, okay, we're doing this, and we set it clear in stone, and we've been good about keeping to that. So I definitely agree that like going in, setting stuff, and making it happen. There's obviously going to be a stage where you're like trying to figure out who's actually doing what and making it work. Like we had to go through that and communicate constantly. But once you figure it out, once you get through all that, then it's like, yay, awesome.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned, Toilet, you're communicating your expectations, but that also allows them to communicate their expectations to you as well. And of course, you can reformat those as you progress. And then also how you're saying, like, when you were talking to your friend who was a co-owner in DMs, you're like, I'm talking to you as a friend right now. I'm talking to you as a co-owner. So like another option for that could be like DMs are just for friend stuff, and then maybe you have staff channels or a staff server, and that's just for co-owner stuff. So that could be another way to delineate the two aspects of yourselves that interact with each other. Yeah. So
what's that one meme, like the double life or whatever?
Yeah.
Secret lives.
Yeah. It's like if you've ever worked somewhere and like a family member or a friend was your boss, it's kind of like that same dynamic. Like I worked in a restaurant for a while and the boss was like a family friend. So like whenever I was at work, I'd be like, all right, Jerry, right now you're my boss. You're not like my honorary like uncle. So I'm going to talk to you like my boss. When we're outside of the restaurant, then we have this kind of like family relationship or family friend relationship with each other. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing to navigate.
Yeah, as long as everybody's being like open, honest, and intentional with what they're doing, I feel like it definitely could work. But it all starts with making sure that you're choosing a friend who is a good fit for the job.
Yeah, I agree. Do we want to talk about like other qualities that we think are important in potential co-owners or leaders? Like we've talked about somebody who's like mature, that we're setting expectations correctly when they first begin or when they first join the staff team. Are there other qualities that we think are important?
I have.
Oh,
you can go ahead. Go, Sunny, go.
I would prefer somebody who's already in the club rather than like getting someone from outside and then like taking them straight up to that type of role.
Right.
If you have somebody who's already in the club and is like consistent and all of that kind of thing, you could see over like a lot longer period of time those behaviors that you definitely want in your club leaders. You can make sure that they are, you know, a good example for other members, someone who's like showing initiative and stuff like that. I would definitely say rank up from within your club first if that is available to you before you go looking for club leaders outside of your club. And you never know if you've never asked, you know, if there might be some people who are already in your club that are maybe interested in it, but you aren't even sure that they are yet.
And then I think what's good about trying to pick from within your club first as well is that it can be a little weird if somebody comes from the outside and is all of a sudden a club leader and it's like, we don't know this person, why did they get promoted? So yeah, if you can hire quote unquote from your club first, I agree. I think too, like if you have a trial period for your leaders, if they're already a member of your club, you already sort of know them as a person, hopefully. So that kind of like that barrier has already been crossed, and now you're just learning how they are as a staff member. But if you're bringing in somebody brand new, you would potentially maybe just want a longer trial period so you can get to know them as a person while also seeing how they perform their staff duties. But yes, I agree.
For that, you could even like accept them, make them go through the trial period, wait a week, and then they can start staff duties to kind of make them get settled in first before giving them all those jobs to take on.
Right.
In my notes, this is like a smaller thing, but I was thinking about it more, and I was like, you know, we do this a lot. Recording and screen sharing and mic quality. Those are like, I feel like background things. Like whenever I've been accepting staff, I don't tend to ask about that. Like obviously, like Sunny, for example, you were in Crystal Parts, so I was able to hear your mic, and I know you have good computers, so you could record and screen share. But maybe for like hiring outside of the club, or if you've never seen them record or screen share, I feel like especially for dressage, that's something that's important. Recording routines, recording sequences, sharing your screen so people can check their gaps or have the second monitor kind of thing going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that is kind of now in the back of my head.
Yeah, I think those are good things that good tools that they should be able to use.
Tools in the toolkit. Mm-hmm.
I think we kind of touched on this, but it's good if they have prior experience. So I think this is more of a bonus. I think you can train someone to be a good leader. Maybe they have already shown initiative as a member, like they're interested in hosting events within the club, or they're very chatty. They're a certified yapper in both calls and in text channels. They're always super friendly with everyone, like responding really nicely. They communicate really well. They don't get into any disagreements with others. And you might go, okay, this person is a good potential staff member or leader. So kind of keeping that in mind. But if they do have prior experience as like a leader or an owner in another club or another online community, or even if they've had a management position in an actual job, those are also all skills that they can bring to being a co-owner or leader for an SSO club.
Yeah, I've definitely learned a lot from my past leading and owning experiences, and I like to think I've gotten a lot of my previous mistakes out of the way, though unfortunately I know I have more coming up that I definitely will make. I could try to use, the information I've learned in the past to try to, do better in the future, so it definitely is a plus. Knock out some of those mistakes before they get to you.
Yeah. Like I've drawn on my experience as I coached soccer for 4 years, and I apply that to to leading and to instructing. So you could get
That's so
experience
funny, but I definitely could see how that applies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. This is definitely this is definitely a resume thing. Like, it definitely takes a lot of work and it's worth it. And I remember like in high school running for student government, and I'd be like, okay, well, I have to talk about how I can lead. And I was like, well, I run a Star Stable club. So I was like, how could I describe this? Because I didn't want to obviously give like a 5-minute spiel about the horse game or whatever. But I was like, I run a gaming organization and I like track attendance, I announce events, I love coming up with ideas. So definitely like getting started, training somebody kind of unlocks doors, and they'll definitely improve with help over time, especially if they haven't done it before. But it's definitely exciting, especially since you guys were talking about outside club leadership things. That just reminded me that I talk about it all the time.
Yeah, not to say that like if you have like somebody who's younger who maybe just hasn't had the chance to accumulate as much life experience as an old lady like me, they are still potentially a great option if they have a good personality, they're eager to learn. Don't discount them. But prior experience is a bonus. Another quality I think that is good for a potential co-owner leader to have is somebody who's organized. So this is kind of like, as the owner, you kind of set the standards for that. So like, how are you organizing things on your end? Because then that communicates to your staff members how organized they should be. So, but also ideally they should be quite organized as well. So they can manage their own tasks and responsibilities with minimal oversight from you as the owner or co-owners. And you shouldn't have to remind them often of things. Ideally. So, because I've seen in the past, people can get quite frustrated with that. If they're like, you're a co-owner or a leader, you should be able to assign yourself tasks and to complete tasks without me being on your butt and saying, do this.
Yeah. Another thing that I had in my notes was like willingness to do tasks that you may not want to do. Like all the stuff, like I know I struggle. We actually talked about this, like end of the month checklist. That thing always gets passed over by me because I'm like, oh, I don't want to sit down for an hour and do it, but it's so important and like integral to keeping the club running.
Yeah.
And so I know I've struggled with that before, but finding people who are willing to do the hard stuff and the stuff that may not get seen, but also enjoying the good stuff like making art if that's what they like. Just kind of a mix of both.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, how can you like support each other like within your staff team? Like we discussed this yesterday in a call, but we're gonna have like a little like senior staff member meetup weekly where we kind of like go, hey, what are you currently working on? I'm working on this. What do we want to do in the future? And we kind of just like support each other through our tasks. What is it? Body doubling. We're in call working together.
Yeah. That also reminded me of like playing to each other's strengths. Because everybody is unique, and we all have our own strengths and weaknesses, and like as you get more experience, you can learn what you like doing and take that on. While other people what you struggle with, they may be awesome at it. So you're like, you could do that. I'll stick with what I know I could do.
Right.
So being aware.
And for like those tasks that are not like the most fun to do, it could be like, oh, maybe this week like Felix has a little bit more time, so they can do this boring task. Oh, and then this week Sunny has a little bit more time, so maybe they could do some of that boring task. So it's not like your responsibilities are set in stone. They can be a little bit more fluid, but some people gravitate to some things more than others, and you can play to their strengths, and then kind of like support each other through the things that you're not so good at. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think another good thing too, I think we've sort of already touched on this, but if the person you're looking at as a potential co-owner leader, if they're really good at communicating. Because the worst thing is, like we mentioned earlier, they ghost you. You don't hear from them for weeks or months, and you're like, are you okay? Are you, did you run away to join the circus? Did you get abducted by aliens? What's going on? So like, ideally they keep you in the loop as much as possible. And then I think what's important here is that as the owner or co-owners, you're setting up the channels for that communication. So whether it's like through DMs, you have a staff server, staff channels, just make it easy for them to get in touch with you. But they should also be communicating proactively with you without you having to check in with them.
I love the word proactive. Proactive versus reactive. Being proactive, yes. Yes.
I have a whole list of qualities, but I don't want to be yapping too much. Do you guys have other qualities that you think are important?
I love it. I'm usually on the other side just listening to this, so I like feel like I'm going into like listening to Felix bestow her wisdom on mode,
Yeah, keep bestowing.
Like,
keep bestowing.
I don't have a lot of experiences looking for leaders. Like I said, I was usually the leader, or if I was a co-owner, a lot of times the people who I was leading with, I was co-owning with a friend, or like I've been in situations where a club just banned, and so like the high ranks moved somewhere else, and then so they were kind of already there. I never was like actively looking for those positions.
All right, I'll keep going then.
Yeah.
The next one I think that's important is maturity, like emotional maturity. They don't have to be like a wizened old lady or man or person. Just emotionally mature, so like they can handle critique and criticism without reacting emotionally in the moment. And then they can keep an objective distance between themselves and any problems that need to be handled within the club. So I think this kind of goes back to what we were discussing earlier. If you elevate a friend to the co-owner or leader position, but maybe they aren't quite ready for those responsibilities, or they don't have all the necessary qualities, sometimes what you see is maybe they aren't quite emotionally mature. And if like, say, a club member is like unhappy with how they handled the situation, or maybe an event was really poorly ran and they provided feedback and this person kind of blows up and gets really angry with them. You don't really want that to happen. So emotional maturity is important. Another thing I think that's important as well is that they're creative and they take initiative. So like we mentioned earlier, they will suggest new things. They will plan things without you needing to be following up behind them all the time. They will ask for additional work or offer to take things off your plate. Instead of just passively waiting for you to assign tasks. And then another big one is they're trustworthy. So it comes more with time, but as you get to know them better, you could say like, hey, I'm going to be on vacation for a couple weeks, and I know that my co-owner or my leaders can run the club efficiently without me being there, and I don't have to be constantly on Discord on my phone checking in every half hour to make sure things are going all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the qualities I think they're important.
I think those are important. Something that I was thinking about when you brought these up was
Mhm.
like, not, I guess you could say reputation, but like how people are perceived,
Mhm.
like the trustworthiness and like making sure that everybody's like morals align and we're
Right.
perceived like similarly. Like we're all different humans, obviously, but being in the same zone of each other.
Right. So like we mentioned earlier, if they were already a member in the club, you could kind of already get a feel for their personality before they potentially become a staff member. And I think too, if they have like a social media presence, like if they have an SSO Instagram account, um, or you've seen them in other Discord servers, you can kind of get a feel of how they are outside of the club too.
Yeah, that's true.
And then if they've been in previous clubs or teams, you can get in contact with the owners of those clubs and teams and say, hey, how was this person when they were with you? And then, I mean, people make mistakes, and hopefully if they did make a mistake, they've grown and learned from that. But sometimes you can kind of do a background check.
Yeah, background check.
Yeah, I think kind of overall, like in general, you want to look for somebody who has like similar morals to you, like somebody who is willing to take on responsibilities, like friendly, things like that. Because it's going to be a lot easier for you to find somebody who has like those major traits like that and then teach them other things. Like maybe they're not so good at their dressage skills. They need like a touch up on that. It'll be a lot easier for you to teach them dressage or how to do different things on Discord than it is going to be for you to try and like mold somebody to be trustworthy, you know?
Right. So if they share like the same core values as you, it's going to be a lot easier to work with them. Like they don't need to be a carbon copy of yourself, but
well, you just want to look for like I guess a morally positive person
yes.
overall.
Yes,
I think,
I agree.
and
I
then
agree.
like the club experience and stuff. Like of course that's a bonus. It'll make it easier to bring them up to speed if they do have like those different experiences. But it would be a lot easier to take somebody who is like follows those characteristics that you want them to and then teach them those things than it would be to take somebody who has experience and is really good at dressage but is maybe like a little rough, not so friendly, you know, like different things like that.
Right. Maybe the not so friendly person would be better suited to other things that don't require as much contact with the members. Maybe they do more behind the scenes stuff.
Especially as a leader when you have to give feedback on other people. If the person is not so friendly and like maybe you already have negative experiences with them, then like when those tough situations pop up and they have to give you some type of feedback, you're always going to read that as like more negative than if you had a good relationship with that person, like
That's
you
true.
had positive, friendly interactions with them, and then they tell you like, hey, like, can you make sure that you're coming to practice on time?
Right.
You know, you're going to read that as a lot more friendly if you know them to be friendly.
That's a good point. All right. Do we have any other thunkies? Thunkies
No,
on
I
the
don't
topic?
think so.
Yeah, I'm good with thunkies.
Does the audience have any thunkies? Is the audience satisfied? That's the question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is the audience
Jenny.
satisfied?
Do we get the baguette?
Of...
Do we get the baguette gif or whatever Jenny usually sends? Is the audience satisfied?
Jenny's driving, it might be delayed.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jenny's gonna
Please don't
pull
send
over.
the baguette.
Pull over and
Jenny,
send the baguette.
don't send the baguette, please. Jenny just stops in the middle of the highway. Sorry, guys, was sending a baguette emoji.
Oh no.
That's great.
All right. Well, if we don't have any further thoughts, I think we're all Gucci guacamole.
Ooh, golf claps. Yeah, IRL because I don't have the soundboard. Yay!
Oh,
did you send to your mother?
Thanks, Magpie.
Oh my gosh.
Let me just click on the Discord so OBS captures the beauty of this flaming GIF.
I want to get in on this.
Very nice.
Your mother.
Truly a thing of
So
beauty.
Ballerina
Cappuccino.
That's great.
That's excellent. The Magpie is typing. Is Magpie sending another GIF? Oh, never mind. All
I'm so
right.
glad you guys knew what that meant because I looked at it and I was like, ballet coffee?
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever you say.
I'm dancing because y'all ate. That's what it means.
Nice. All right. Well, if we don't have any further thoughts and the audience is satisfied, I think we're done with this crow's nest. Yippee!
Yippee!
All right. Oh, let me Craig. Thank you for your service. Tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
Nice. All right. Stop recording. There we go. Craig.
Tabernacle.
Stop recording.
That is without doubt the worst pirate I have ever seen.
Gentlemen, milady, you will always remember this as the day that you almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow.